we've tried to find a bunch of ways to expose your data in a way that's meaningful to you. So you have a lot of options. Over here are some simple tools that are frequently used. Download Actions is going to allow you to download everyone who took action on a particular page. It's just going to give you a CSV. You can also download survey responses from this. Those will just automatically be included if you select the page. You've got some criteria for what else you want to be included in the CSV. By default, it's going to have the user ID. So unless you're using this to send to another computer, you might want email so that it's human relevant. Also, you can have name, phone, etc. That's probably the most useful of just a point and click. The other two over here that are good to know about are compare pages. This lets you do a head-to-head comparison of the performance of multiple pages, including the conversion rate. So of the people who landed on the page, how many people actually submitted. That can be useful for analysis. Similarly, you can compare mailings with the Compare Mailings report. And that looks just like the report we already saw. The other things that you see here are a combination of built-in reports and reports that you've written, your organization has written, and designated as key reports. Or you can look at any of these other views, recently run, latest updates, or reports I've created. There are a lot of built-in reports. So we also have a directory. So I go to the reports and I go to the built-in reports, and I can see the previews. These are some of the reports that we've identified as best of from clients, and they were willing to share them, and we've made them available built in your instance. So Chris showed you some of these. You can also see this mailing report is quite helpful for seeing performance 1 hour in and 24 hours in for a mailing compared to other mailings in the past week. So that's a good resource to know about. And those are all the things that you can just use. Now what we're going to get to is writing your own. And what I'm going to do to start is not what I did. So let me go back so I'm on the Reports tab. And the way I add a new report is I click Add Query. I'm going to pick a type. We'll talk a little bit about the types in a second. I'm going to start with users because usually that's the most common type, either users or actions. And I think I've already selected one here, yes. So I need to name it. It's nice to have the name and the description follow internal protocols, but you want something to be really clear so that later when you're looking at your list of 600 reports, you can more easily determine what the report is about. The other kind of tip that I have if you're writing reports is make yourself a practice one. So I have a report called QB Users TEA that's just, I go in and do all my one-off user queries in that report. So you've named it, you've described it. Now it's time to determine what the report returns. The way this works is display is basically your column headers. The results are going to be returned as a table. Filters is determining who's returned. Since I've selected users as my query type, the object that it's looking at is users. So if I select nothing under filters, it's going to return a row for every single user in the database. So this just limits that. And what I've done here is a simple report because I could make this a targeting report, so in the query library, or merge file. There's a few purposes that I can use a report for that just returns, actually it's not email. I need to return the user ID is what I need to do a targeting query. So let's say I'm going to return a list of my super actives. You can see here this looked a lot like the advanced user search because it's exactly the same as that. Each of these options that you select has more options embedded in it. So if you have trouble finding something, for example, county is hidden under home address, just check it out. And hopefully we put them under the header that's most sensical when you look at them all, although always feel free to ask. Because the Query Builder has so many options, we're trying to strike a balance between showing you at the top level everything that's available and making it actually possible for you to read through all of this. So let's say I'm going to send a personal email to a set of super actives. So I want the full name, the email address, and this is going to be something I send from my personal email account to like 5 people, let's say. I might want their number of actions, their number of actions by type. I might want the page that their latest action was on, and that's with date and time. I might want the tags that they've, the issue interest that they've shown. So I can display almost any information here about my users. And then I want this to just come up with some of my most active users. So I've included here selections that generate the SQL that will define people who are created in the last 6 months. They've clicked at least 3 mailings. No, they've clicked at least 1 mailing in the last 3 months. They're a donor. They've acted from a mailing in the last 90 days. So you can set quite a number of criteria here, and they can be sophisticated. And the thing that this one does is combines them with an OR. And I did that by selecting the SQL expression, which I'm just going to show you in a different box. So if I filter by number of actions on a call page, has to be at least 1. This is going to return anyone who meets that criteria. I could say also limit it to geography. So people who live in California. But let's say I want to combine these two with OR. The way that I do that is I go down to the SQL expressions. I select any of these filters, and then I need to drag my criteria into the box. That's going to turn this into OR. The other thing you can do here is exclude people who meet either of these criteria, or exclude the individual criteria. Basically, within the filters category, you've got a way to do very sophisticated logic by exclude or required and combining and or. So that gives you a lot of choices for writing your report and returning your results, which we're going to look at in a minute. You can pick the design that you want them displayed in. Since they're coming out as a table, I always prefer better to standard, better, just add some spaces. You can also make it scrollable. If it's a wide report, it'll have a scroll bar at the bottom. And your tags are going to be both categories of reports, so things you guys designate, like maybe you want petition information as a tag, or advocacy, or sharing. Some of these are built in though, so they'll serve a specific purpose within ActionKit. If you designate them as homepage, they're going to show up on the reports tab. So they're going to show up in the key reports category. So now let's just run one to give you a sense. Let's look at this one again. So this is, let's say we're doing a call list. I'm going to want user name, user phone number, and let's say I just want this to be people from California. So when I run this, oh, I forgot to name this one. And I end up with many names like this, which is why it's good to have a protocol for naming your random queries that you're going to not use again. So this returns my result. And as you can see, it's a table. And this is users. The other types of reports that you might build, the ones that I think will be particularly relevant for you guys are actions and mailings. And if I use an action query type, the filter, the rows it's going to return, is a row for every single action in my database. So this is usually something that you would use for aggregating totals. So you want to look at number of actions by original source or by state or by some combination of any of these criteria. So that's a very quick query builder overview. If